In 2-Minute Warning, a sniper with unknown motive sneaks into the Super Bowl. Well, they never actually call it that for legal reasons, but there is a madman and the police must try and stop him. Some big stars in this one, so let's try and figure out why this is largely a forgotten thriller. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
Mister, my dad lost his job and doesn't have any money.
All right, welcome everyone to the movie show. That was a tease. We'll talk about that later, what happened in the movie that we were referencing. Yeah. But yes, welcome to the show. It's a movie podcast. We get together, we work through seasons of movies, sometimes it's franchises. Right now, we're working through a season of 70s thrillers. I always have trouble saying that. 70s thrillers. Thrillers from the 70s. That's easier. But yes, we're doing today a movie called 2-Minute Warning, which is a good bit different to the movies we've done this season so far. We've had a lot of like detective-y movies, I would say, for the most part, in this season. Different styles, but certainly a lot of them have fit into that kind of topic.
I'd say this one feels a lot closer to our 70s disaster seasons, just in like tone.
It does. Joe, the thing is I think I remember this popping up when I was looking for 70s disaster movies back when we were preparing those seasons. And I discounted it at the time because the premise itself didn't feel quite like a disaster movie. And I still think that having watched it. But I will say the way this movie like tackles the story, like structure-wise, and the way with the ensemble cast does feel very similar to the 70s disaster movies. So I can absolutely see why someone's kind of putting it in both camps and kind of, saying it's kind of that. But hey, we've done that season, we've done this season, it fits in our show. Okay, we can happily get into it. So there is an ensemble cast here, some pretty big meaty names are in here. This is a 1976 film, and it's set, I don't think it's the Super Bowl, I think it's just a big game. Right?
It is the NFL not willing to give them the rights to say Super Bowl.
Really? Okay, so so it is effectively the Super Bowl. They're just not saying it in the movie.
Yep, it is the championship game.
Okay, all right. Good to know. Because he said that at the start. It's Sunday. It's the championship game, and I went, "Oh, it's the Super Bowl," because it's the one thing I know about American football. And then they proceeded to never ever say those words, and I started to doubt. I was like, "Is this like the next rung down? Is this like the second biggest game they have in the season?"
I mean, technically, in football, there's two different conferences, which is the AFC and the NFC, I believe. And those ones each have a championship within their own right. And then the Super Bowl is just the winners of those two conferences. And it's essentially just like a split between like east to west, more or less. It's a bit more complicated, but that's more or less what it is.
And then the NFTs got involved, and
yes, and then you had to pay $600 to watch a single game, but you own that game.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I just learned something. I don't think I knew there was two different leagues, and then the winner of each league face each other in the Super Bowl. So the only time teams from those two sides ever meet is if they both make it to like the top of their own leagues. That's interesting, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Wildly complicated for no reason.
Yeah, sure. All right, good. I've learned something. Anyway, there's a sniper who's going to unleash hell at this Super Bowl, and that's the premise of the movie. I won't say anything else. I'll just leave it there. Yeah. Because on paper, that one sentence description, I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds like it's got promise and all this. And we'll see if what I thought the movie would be and what the movie actually is line up as we get into it. But that's the general gist of it. I assumed you'd never heard of this before.
No, never. I couldn't even begin to fathom this movie as it was presented or in concept.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know the 2-minute warning was something that's in a football game until they said it in the movie, that we're almost at the 2-minute warning, and I'm like, oh, that's a football term. Okay. I just thought it was, something bad's about to happen, 2-minute warning.
I feel like it's not even used that much because, I mean, like, I've seen football games and they say there's 2 minutes left on the clock, but it's not like an official thing. It's not like everyone stops the game and says, all right, everybody, 2-minute warning. This is where we're at now.
I mean, it's a different time. It's the 70s. Maybe it was more of a thing. The one thing I did fact check though during the movie is they said the stadium or the Coliseum in Los Angeles. They said it had over 90,000 people in it, and I'm just so used to wrestling cooking the books and saying a much bigger number than it actually is that I wanted to check, and it turns out that before it was renovated, just before the pandemic, it did indeed hold more than 90,000 people. It now only holds 77,000 people because they added like suites and stuff and took away some space for other things.
Oh, okay.
But,
I was gonna say they renovated down the space. That seems weird to me, but all right.
I mean, you say that, but even my local cinema, my movie theater, like took away seats so they could put in big fancy recliners. So the idea is like less people but more luxurious is the idea.
No, movie theaters, that makes sense for me. I could not imagine a sports game trying to turn away ticket holders for the sake of saying no, but the seats are slightly bigger now, you get more leg room.
Well, I don't think it's quite that though in this case. I think it's that they've added like private boxes and those charge a fortune to more than make up for all the regular seats that otherwise would have been there. But it's been, when I was looking this up, I just happened to notice it was opened in the 20s, so like it was an ancient building, but so they kind of need to update it a little bit, I assume, probably at various points in its history. So anyway, so yeah, that's where the movie takes place, and much like a disaster movie of the era, we spend a lot of the first half introducing various ensemble characters. Some of them are the police, who are going to become much bigger parts in the back half, of course, when things get serious. But a lot of it is people who are going to the game, a family, a married couple, or a not married couple, and some other people here or there. A pickpocket's one of the characters, and we'll get into all that a little bit later. So, I guess we'll just get in with the simple question. David, what did you think of 2-Minute Warning?
I don't know. It's a complicated question because I think that there is a lot when I view this through the lens of the disaster movie kind of structure. I think that this one, it takes a while to get to what it's going to do, and then it's kind of just, okay, let's problem solve, let's do all that. But when I view it through the lens of a thriller, when I view it through the lens of kind of comparing to the rest of the stuff we've done this season, it is painfully dull for most of the movie. It's a 2-hour-long movie, and I feel like the only time there's like a really high tension, oh God, like what's going to happen, is the last maybe 20 minutes, if even at that point. It's full of just all these false starts, this keeping you of like, oh, is something going to happen? No, it's not. We're just messing with you. And it just keeps doing that until finally all of a sudden the switch is flipped and we get to that point. I think that the characters are developed well enough that I do like the majority of them, but even when we get to the idea of building this ensemble cast, I feel like most of them are left in the dirt. Like, we get a couple that get a good amount of definition to them, and I like those characters. But if you told me when this started, like, oh, the pickpocket character, I'd be like, who? What are we, like, this? By the time we get to the end of it, I feel like that guy barely got anything. And I could say that for about half, if not 3/4 of the cast. So collectively, I think I was a bit underwhelmed by this one. There's a few sequences in it that I think really work, but by the time I hit the end of it, I was less impressed than I think most of the thrillers that we've had this season. Or if I'm going by the disaster film idea, I don't think it really stands up to most of those either. So kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I think I was kind of into it early on. Like, I think the opening, because there's a lot of like POV stuff from the killer, who basically does some target practice at the start of the movie, and I thought all that stuff was kind of a little cheesy because it's kind of old school, but I kind of liked that about it. I kind of like, oh, we're really teasing this shooter who's going to come and do something bad, and it's really kind of playing that up. And for the first like 20 minutes, I was kind of like really into like what it was doing. And then it kept stalling, and it kept stalling, and it kept stalling to the point where at the 30-minute mark, I was ready for things to really start. We're at the end of Act 1 now, let's get going. But things don't really properly develop until almost an hour in. And even then, like, and I don't even mind that it does something different than what I thought it was going to do, but even that different thing that it does, it kind of feels very monotonous after that point. And I think by the end, even though there was some nice moments or ideas, I think the premise is pretty solid. But I also think that, there's a reason why maybe in the last 20 years or so, no one's like rushing to like make a big deal about this movie or remaster it and say, hey, this is something we want to promote as part of Universal's history. Because the sad truth is that the type of event that this is kind of like teasing the whole movie is something that's become like a relatively commonplace, not in a Super Bowl style stadium, but the idea of someone shooting into a crowd of people has become such a regular occurrence in a really dark part of modern American history that the idea of finding entertainment in this, like, I almost feel a little bit guilty for even enjoying any of it, because obviously when they made this movie, that wasn't what it became yet, right? We weren't at that point. Yeah. But it is kind of difficult not to think about that as you're watching this, and it definitely brings some parallels to that eventually, and it's hard to think, oh man, a world where they made a movie like this, because nothing like this had happened yet, and to the extent where they felt like, oh, this is hitting too close to home. Right.
But even then, I think there are bits in this movie where they do kind of recognize, and maybe it's a prophecy sort of thing, maybe they were dealing with this to some extent back then, but they make a point of having a little sequence where they talk about how is the media going to respond to this? And they spell it out pretty clearly, like what's going to happen. And I'm like, that still seems pretty prescient. That still seems pretty up to date.
Yeah, well, I think
a lot of things.
The reason why that's so on point is because it still works for what they probably got it from, which is like when they're apprehending like serial killers, or if there's any kind of siege or anything like that. I feel like those exact things they're saying apply to all those situations, and that's why it feels like they hit the nail on the head, because that's exactly the sort of topics that come up whenever we get a situation like this. And I'm very much, for the audience who are wondering, why isn't he just saying the thing that I'm talking about? YouTube don't like that phrase and will demonetize us, so I'm avoiding the phrase.
No.
But yeah, you all know what I'm talking about. Let's not beat around the bush otherwise.
No, and like I agree with you for what you said of, in the beginning, it does hook me, but I think it hooks me with the idea of, it's going to happen by the end of Act 1.
That's what, I
agree. Going to be a thing where it's going to be that, and then we're dealing with the fallout and trying to find this guy and hunting it, and it just doesn't happen. It just takes too long to get there, to the point where I'm lost interest.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that. And I'd actually be also okay if the thing that actually develops instead of what I thought was going to develop, the thing that happens about halfway through, if that was at the end of Act 1, I'd also be fine with it as well, because it would be like, okay, that's a significant development where it's going to start turning the tide, and this is now got a focus. It's now, characters are trying to accomplish something. It would have a direction to it. But I swear, about half an hour in, maybe just before half an hour in, the actual football game starts, right? They come out of the field and they all start playing, and I swear there's almost half an hour of the game being played and just reaction shots of the crowd, occasionally a little bit of character stuff of the people in the crowd that we already know, cutting to like people watching the game. I swear, other than the tease of him looking through a scope, nothing really happens for almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's just more development of the characters. It really is just kind of like, okay, everyone's in their seats now. These people that we introduced separately are now starting to intermingle, and so you start to develop some of these, I'll call them storylines, but really it is just...
bit of a stretch.
It's kind of just like a one-scene play sort of thing, where it's just two people sitting in a chair, and then you see how they react over the course of this game. But no, the bit that you're saying of him looking through the scope, that I think is them realizing that they have to keep teasing this stuff, because every time he like pulls up the gun and looks through the scope, you're like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And he keeps on aiming at our specific characters. So you also get this idea of, oh, which of these characters that we've been introduced to is the target, is the one that he's going to go after. And then again, it just keeps stalling. We never get there until finally it happens at the third act.
Yeah, because I was fine with a little bit of teasing, but like there's a point where he puts the gun down, and then it's like, wait, so he's not doing anything yet? Okay. And there's actually a moment, like however long into the movie, it's probably just around the halfway point, where they mention that the game's at halftime, and I'm like, wait, half the game's already happened? Nothing's happened yet in the plot. What are we doing here? So, I think ultimately I didn't mind watching it, and there's definitely parts of it that I think are interesting enough that I think if you like this era of movies and you want to like sort of tick all the boxes and like whatnot and see some of these actors that you probably like from other things, then it's not it's a background watch. You know, put it on while you're doing something else. I think it's perfectly serviceable, but yeah, it is a movie to hold your attention and to actually be satisfying in every way in its own right. It is not winning the day, certainly. So
yeah. I'll say up front here, for anybody who may remember this from their childhood, like if you remember seeing this movie or just scratch an itch in your head, I will say that there was a TV edited version that has a significantly large departure from the plot of this one. I won't say anything specific about what it is, but if you hear us talking about it and you seem to remember something different happening, just know there are two versions, and we'll get to the other one in spoilers.
Yeah, once we get to spoilers and we've talked about what happens in this version for a bit, David will fill us in what the alternate cuts. I assume the alternate cut's longer because it was meant to fill like a bigger TV slot.
Yeah, they add about 40 extra minutes of footage.
Jeez, God, that has to be like at least a 4-hour TV slot. If not, maybe even
Probably.
5 hours. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's interesting. So we keep mentioning the ensemble cast, so we should probably run down a few of these people here. Some regular faces from one thing or another. Charlton Heston plays one of the policemen here, the captain. Of course, he was in a couple of disaster movies we did in 70s disaster season, including Airport. He was in the second Airport movie. Obviously, he's quite a famous... An earthquake, of course, yeah. But you know, he was a famous name, so it's not like I'm saying that's where you know him from. You probably know him from Planet of the Apes, if anything, but like I'm just sort of pointing out the connections to what we've done in past seasons. John Cassavetes is in this movie, which is funny because I know him as like more of a like artistic kind of like, you know, Criterion Collection sort of director / actor, but he's in here as the head of a SWAT team. We have two different actors from 12 Angry Men in this movie. One of the other sort of police characters who's sort of in charge of security at the stadium is played by Martin Balsam. He was juror number 1 in 12 Angry Men.
I recognized him. Who was the other one?
The gambling guy, Jack Klugman. He was also in 12 Angry Men.
Oh, that's right. He was.
Yeah. I don't remember what number he was. The other one's easy because he was number 1. I mean, but I remember where he was sitting. I can tell you where he was sitting in the room.
Juror number 5.
There you go. Right. So yeah, a couple of people from there, and then the other name that you might recognize is Beau Bridges. He's in here as the father of a family who are going to the game. So yeah, but a bunch of faces. I also recognized the priest character, who was in like one of the bad Halloween sequels at the very least. He's probably been some other stuff as well, but he's got a very recognizable jawline.
Dr. Wynn from Curse of Michael Myers.
That sounds right, yeah. One of the worst ones. I can't say the worst one because Rob Zombie exists, but
yeah.
but yes, before then, 6 was the worst one. So yeah. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in here, and that's the ones that I know, that I recognize from other things. I mean, some of these other names might be well known at the time that I just don't know very well, but those are the ones that I know.
Yeah, I feel like they were making a big deal about, I think it was Janet. I didn't recognize her, but it seemed like how much they were focusing on her. She must have been a big star at that point, and she's played by Gino Rowlands.
I just said Rowlands. That's interesting, and I'm not correcting you. I'm just pointing out it's interesting that you went to Rowlands when I just said Rowlands.
I'm also just an idiot with pronouncing names. I'm horrible. I seem to always pick the wrong one.
Nah, it's just it's like the end of Glasgow. You would say Glasgow, and I always pull Americans up for it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I love my time in Edinburgh.
I will cut you. But yeah, so yeah, we got a whole thing. I will say there's definitely characters they spend time introducing at the start of the movie. Some of whom just kind of like you see them again, but they don't even really factor into things. We spend a whole sequence on one of the players, for example, who gets a couple of scenes, and they feel like they're introducing him as a main character. He's going to be the one on the field that we know, and then I swear he just disappears from the movie after a certain point.
They literally, like, they spend 2 full sequences on this guy. Like, you absolutely know him. They do a bit in the TV truck where they're like, and there's this guy. He's got some bad knees, but hopefully he's going to be able to make it out of this game. I'm like, oh, we're going to get like that sequence at the end where his knees are going to give out, but like he's still got to like run away from the shooter, like all this stuff. No, end of like, not even end of first quarter, like middle of first quarter, he goes out and he's replaced, and we never see him again.
Which would be fine if like there was plot with him, like, you know, in the locker room, maybe he would get involved, in, you know, some way with the main plot. But no, we just don't see him again. He's just gone.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh,
so weird.
Why did we spend so much time, like, you know, developing that? I mean, I know he invited the priest and gave him a ticket, but did we really have to have an explanation for why there's a priest there? He could just be at the game. We don't need to have a backstory to why the priest is there.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally introduce a totally separate character of like, oh, I got this ticket, but my wife's making me give up football, or I've given up football for Lent or whatever. Here you go, priest. Take this ticket. I'm
not even thinking about like that early on though. I'm thinking after you've shot the movie, you've already done everything, and for whatever reason, maybe there was a whole extra subplot with this football player that you've cut, but you felt you had to keep the first couple of scenes to explain why the priest is going to the game. I'm like, you just don't need them. You could just have the priest show up at the game. It doesn't really need an explanation. Priest likes football. It's not that weird. It's fine.
I don't know. I have no answer for this at all. There's also one. Well, I guess it's kind of spoilers. I was gonna follow that path down, but I'll wait until spoilers to say.
Yeah, we'll get to that things. So yeah, I mean, big cast, a lot of recognizable faces, so it feels star-studded, which was very much a trope of the disaster movies in the 70s, where they just fill the cast out with names so that people would see all those names on the poster, all those faces. Because they used to do that thing, would have the little like photos at the bottom, just a row of the faces, right?
I'm trying to see how many there are. Not counting Charlton Heston, who's separated from the rest of them. There are 10 faces down at the bottom.
Joe, it's funny, I didn't even check to see if this one did that. I just said that because in general they were doing that. And yeah, sure enough. Notably, they're all got scopes over their faces on this poster just to make it thematically relevant. So isn't that fun?
Which one's the target? Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Maybe it's just because I'm too coded with like modern day world stuff, but I just never assumed there was a specific target until they started saying who's the target. I'm like, but let's not talk about it just now, because there's definitely some spoilery like paths to go down with that once we get into it. But yeah, worth mentioning all the same. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else spoiler-free wise to talk about? I don't know if there is.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I would say that if even ignoring the stalling aspect of it, I think this movie is still just like half an hour too long. Like, even if you want to keep the structure the same, I think pretty much exactly what you said of the football game starts and then it feels like there's half an hour until anything happens. All of the character development stuff that happened in between that bit could easily have been peppered amongst the later half of the movie if it was just that 30 minutes was cut. Just say, okay, starting the game and slow fade, now it's halftime. Nothing of interest happened in that period.
I don't think it'd be a great movie suddenly, but I think if you cut that half hour out and get to like the development halfway through the movie, half an hour quicker, it would be better. Like, it would objectively just be a better paced movie where it'd get to the interesting stuff quicker. The fact that some of the interesting stuff doesn't live up to maybe what you thought it could be, that's another problem entirely, but it would at least fix a lot of what's wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something to think about. But anyway, so yeah, we'll say spoilers for 2-minute warning, and we'll get into the movie here. So I've got 2 weird things to say about the first couple scenes, actually. So, point number 1, this is just like a little thing I noticed, is the opening of the title sequence is a long aerial shot of the stadium that's empty, which I thought was a good idea. Yeah, do a whole the quiet before the storm, we'll cut around the stadium as the titles come up. Fine idea. But the first shot is this really long shot, which obviously is a helicopter shot. And there's a moment where clearly the camera operator stumbled and it kind of shakes down and goes back up. And all I could think was, it's really weird that that's been left in this, and it's like a universal, you know, mainstream, you know, blockbuster might be the wrong term at this point, but I was thinking, yeah, they just didn't want to pay to do it again. And all I could think was, surely the helicopter can circle around and you can get a second take. Like, I don't understand why, you know, this one had to be kept, but it feels really like amateurish, I guess.
I mean, also, I'm watching the opening sequence now. It's like there's a musical score over top of it, but it's not like they're showing any of the credits for most of this aerial shot. It is there strictly for the musical score is playing. If you needed to cut it early, cut it early. You don't have to hold on that for so long.
Or do a crossfade and cut to later in the shot just to sort of have time pass a little bit, and that would probably look okay. It stuck out to me because at least, you know, like the example I always think of is Jurassic Park. There's when the helicopters come into the island in Jurassic Park, there's a pan of the helicopter sort of coming around the corner, kind of, right? But it's going from left to right. And the pan is terrible. The camera operator was just a bit too late, and it just looks like poorly timed. And I'm not going to like give too much shit for it, because as someone who's actually operated a camera and tried to time pans, they're really tough, to the point where I just avoided trying to do shots where you had to time a pan like that, because it was really tough to nail it. But this is a professional camera operator working for Steven Spielberg. I would expect a little bit of a higher standard. But obviously, because a real helicopter going around the mountains of Hawaii when they're shooting the movie, it's just too much effort and money to get a second attempt at it. And I feel like here they just said, oh, we're not going to do it again. We're just keeping it as is. Off we go.
Oh, Peter, they spared no expense. So.
Hammond spared no expense. Daddy Universal was a lot more. It's also
like $200,000 or $200 million. You get nothing more.
In 1993, no, it was more like 100. Come on now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was just guessing. I was throwing out a number.
Anyway, because I think Titanic was the first movie ever had $200 million, and that was 97. So just to put it in perspective. So that was point number one. Point number two is we get introduced, the first characters we meet, I think, outside of maybe the sniper doing his target practice, but the first characters we properly meet is the football player, who's the quarterback, and they bring up the knees, and he's like, and the woman he's woken up with, like, she's like, oh, your knees were working just fine last night, and they're being all flirty. She's like, come back to bed, and he's like, no, I've got a meeting that's championship game day, baby. Right? But he goes to the bathroom to shave, and she comes in to talk to him, and all I could focus on was this guy's back. Exactly. Right? Yeah. This guy has a perfectly smooth back. He does not have back hair, except just a little bit above his ass, which frankly I was like, is he got a tail? That's what I thought when I looked at him. When he first turned around, I'm like, what is this little tuft of hair? The rest of the back is completely smooth. It's so weird. And if he shaved it, and I don't think he has, but if he has shaved it, why would he leave just that bit?
I fully admit, like, there is a woman who is topless in this scene, and my eye is drawn to this man's tail spot because it is so blatantly there.
It's just such a weird, like, if this is his natural body hair growth, it's just the weirdest, like, shape of body hair I've ever seen on someone. It's odd.
Yeah, like, I don't want to, like, body shame or anything like that.
No.
That's how he is, so be it. But at the same time, like, if they were shooting the same sequence and he had a very specific, like, weird tattoo on his back, I'm going to call it out in the same way as this hair pattern, because surely something could be done.
I mean, they could obviously shave it for the shot, the day he's shooting, just take it off the once or whatever. Not that you should have to. It's not a big deal. It's just weird. It's just a weird...
Yeah.
Back. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe just everyone in the 70s had this and we just never knew.
Well, because all the ladies had full muff, the men felt like they had to have something as well.
Yeah,
but on the back.
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying. Okay. Anyway.
Also, this sequence, as he's shaving, they do a thing that they do several times in this movie, and I get it from an artistic standpoint, but they don't nail it each time, and that is I know there's a particular name for it, but the split depth focus.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about,
They have someone real close to the camera, someone decently far from the camera, and then both of them are in focus. And usually this movie does a good job of splitting it so that you can't actually see the line, where, like, one side would have blurred the background and the other one, the closer stuff, would have been bad. However, they have one shot at the very end of this movie where they're showing, like, the scenic background or whatever of LA, and then our two cops are in the primary focus, and it did not work there. They nailed it 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah, it was popular for different directors and cinematographers to try it during this era. And I was never a fan of it. I think it looks very unnatural to have like a split focus down the middle where like one of these things should be out of focus, and it's weird to my eyes that they aren't. Right. So they made a choice. It's an intentional thing, but I don't happen to like it myself. And it's in good movies. Genuinely great movies will have a few of these shots, and you just kind of put up with it. But it's worth mentioning. So yeah, we get the sniper basically target practices by shooting a random person who's out cycling with his wife in the suburban areas of the city, and just does his thing. It's like just complete random. And then he packs up his rifle, which he's got like all these hidden pockets inside his jacket for each part of it. So that's how he gets in. No metal detectors, obviously, at the Coliseum
of course not.
In 1976. Yep. And yeah, we get a lot of shots of like, and they always hide his face. That's the thing. Like, and even at the very end, they've made a conscious choice in this movie to have him be relatively faceless, and that you can kind of see him in some wide shots, but it's not because there's going to be some big reveal of who he is. It's just this idea of the faceless killer. Like, there's never going to be a person that we can sort of like think about or describe.
I agree, but I do think the language of the film earlier on does kind of mess with that point a little bit, because they very clearly hold on several identifying features. The big thing for me was his car. They keep on showing the model car that he is driving into this place, and it's I don't want to say that it's, I'm expecting this to be a big reveal as to, it turns out it was actually this person all along, but I do think that they were playing it up so that the idea that we didn't know what he looked like, but we had these identifying features that were not directly his face, would allow us to follow the mystery as like the cops did it or something like that. I don't know. It was just something where I felt like they were trying to give us hints as the audience, and it just never ended up being that kind of story.
I think I disagree. I don't think I was feeling that early on. Right. I felt it was just building the suspense of him coming to the stadium, and it was just focusing on the car because that's like him on his way kind of thing. I wasn't reading that as these are hints for later, but yeah, so every so often, just to mention it here, every so often it just cuts back to him listening to the radio, he's on his way, and eventually we see him get into the stadium and climb up. It's basically this little nook behind the scoreboard, and it's got these like perfect like 5.5 foot walls, so he's kind of like in a bunker the entire time. It's a very good hiding spot for someone who wants to do what he's doing. I'll just say that. Yeah,
I do like how they because they show some guy who works for the stadium is also like bolting up all the doors, he's locking stuff, he's checking the area, and they specifically show that there are 2 guard dogs here. And I love, at no point in this movie do the guard dogs matter at all.
No.
They are not a problem that has to be overcome, because both the sniper and later on the SWAT team both come with hunks of meat, and the dogs are just like, all right, you're cool, we'll let you by.
Yeah, it's time-honored tactic. You give meat to the dogs, and they'll just let you do what you want because you fed them.
Of course.
Simple. So yeah, we get introduced to a variety of characters. That's what a lot of the first chunk of the movie is. It's actually kind of funny because obviously we know Charlton Heston and like the other police characters are going to be important later, like John Cassavetes, but they all get like one scene in the first like 40 minutes, and then that's it. We don't see them again until really it becomes more relevant to see them. But they wanted to establish they exist. So we see Heston like arriving at the police station. Cassavetes gets a little bit more of an introduction because he's part of a SWAT team. So we see him like go into a house with his team and like, get someone who they're like. I thought this was going to be relevant to the rest of the movie at first, but then it became clear at the end of the scene, this is just a random bust. This is just to say, hey, look, he's a badass. He does these things. We'll see him because the next time you see him, he's at his barbecue with his wife having burgers or whatever. So
just enjoying game day, whatever.
Yeah, that sets up them. But then the other characters we get set up, of course, we've got a few key groups. So we have the family with Beau Bridges as the father, wife and 2 boys, and they're driving into the city to come to the game, and just to sort of keep all their stuff kind of connected, to, at least for the first half of the movie here. Like, things seem happy enough. There's the one little hint when they're going to park where the wife says, $5 for parking, that's too much. I bet people in LA in 2025 are laughing at that line.
I was laughing at that line. I don't even live near LA. I'm in a much more light area, and that's still hilarious.
But he's like, nah, it's fine, don't want to walk a mile to the stadium. That actually ended up being a little bit of a hint because the little thing we referenced at the start of this review, after they spend some time like in the park having lunch, like, or I say the park, there's like a big lawn out front of the stadium, but they go in, they're making their way inside, and there's like a stand, and this guy puts a hat in one of the kids and says, "Oh, do you want a hat, boy?" And he's like, Dad, can we have a hat? Can we have a hat? And they start asking for hats, and the dad's like, no hats, put them back. And eventually one of the boys turns to this salesman, right, this guy who's running the little stall, and says, "Our dad lost his job and now he doesn't have any money." And immediately Beau Bridges just slaps the son across the face.
He just starts crying and the mom's comforting him, and I'm just like, nah, I mean, I kind of get it. Like, that kid's a little shit.
It's, I don't know. I think the problem with this is that if you were really going to do a plot where he's on edge and he's getting mad at his family because he's feeling, he's feeling whatever. He's feeling like he's lost his job, that he's useless, and he's having a lot of insecurity problems with it. And, but later on in the movie, everyone's in danger, so he's going to, like, redeem himself by, like, trying to save his family or something. If they were going to do that, if that's what the plot was going to be, I'd understand why they were doing this kind of moment. But it comes off as kind of laughable, one, because it's the first time we hear about it, so it feels like out of nowhere he's just a bit of a dick to his son. He does immediately apologize. He kneels down and says sorry and says, "Are you okay, buddy?" and so on. He immediately regrets it, but it's like the most notable character thing this family has. Other than that, he's got binoculars and he likes looking through his binoculars, and that's
I feel like what we just said about that family can be applied to pretty much every subplot. It feels like there's 1 to 2 instances of character development, but in terms of impact on the plot, nobody does a damn thing except the cops. The cops are the only one who have any impact at all.
And it felt like they were about to make him be kind of important because he kind of sees the sniper in his binoculars, and you're like, oh, they're going to do something with that. He's going to, go and do something or tell someone. Or
he might accidentally do something wrong that, like, pushes the timetables up significantly. Yeah, anything like that.
He would have an effect on something, and he doesn't.
No.
I mean, he basically just waves it off until he sees it again, and by that time we're 90 minutes into the movie and all hell's about to break loose anyway, so it doesn't matter at that point. So kind of weird decisions there on that front. We also have a couple who we find out are not married. At first I thought they were married, but there's a sort of older couple who are arriving, and they're playing like around a little bit where they're pretending not to know each other at first, where she's like sort of saying hello and try to like almost make first contact, but then once he like says, "Stop harassing me or I'll tell the police," and then it turns out, oh no, they start kissing. They already know each other. They were just playing a game or something. They're being kinky and quirky.
Yeah. They're leaving the airport or wherever they're at, and did you notice in the shot where they start kissing, like, the crowds are moving around them, but then we get the close-up shot, and there is this woman just like off to the right of the frame who's just staring like just horrifying grin on her face as she's just watching this couple make out, and I'm like, what? Keep moving, lady. What is wrong with you?
Hey, there's nothing like a couple in their mid-50s like, tonsilling each other. I said that
I'll
weird,
agree with that statement. There is nothing like that, and I'm kind of happy there isn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sets up kind of their thing, and then their plot throughout is that she's like, oh, let's just go to a hotel and have some fun, and he's like, no, we flew from Baltimore. I assumed from Baltimore because that's where the other team's from. We flew all these miles to come see the game. Let's go see the game. But basically, they have a bit of a rift because he thinks she flirts with every man around them, but she's actually pissed at him, and it's almost like she's trying to get his attention by doing that because she's pissed that he's not committed to her. This idea that, he even tells people, no, we're not married. He corrects people, no, we're not a married couple. Don't you dare think that. We're not married.
Yeah.
And that's like their whole thing, basically throughout the movie. And most of that comes right towards the end of the movie, honestly.
I was going to say, you say it's their whole thing, and you're right, but the whole thing is basically one following scene where she's upset that he said that and storms off, they make up, and then, oopsie, someone dies.
Yes, but that's like way later on. But we cut to them bickering, or him just not paying attention to her, like, every so often. It's just kind of recurring throughout the movie. That's the thing that's there. We also have a trio of characters, and I was really confused at the backstory as to what this trio was, because at first I thought it's a couple, and this friend's came as the third wheel, and the boyfriend's getting mad that his girlfriend is like getting on better with the other guy. But then later on, she happens to mention that her roommate was meant to be this guy's date. It's not her boyfriend, but he's still acting like really jealous constantly that she's talking to this other guy, even though they're not a couple and it's not even really a date. But he's still getting really butthurt constandly. I don't know. It was a weird little thing going on, like, because it made me think, okay, why is this third guy here then? The character that she's talking to and she's liking talking to, he's a doctor, I think he says he is, right? This doctor character. What's the context of him coming with these two then? If like they were,
well, I don't think he came with them. I think that they just happened to sit next to each other. I think the doctor just happened to be sharing a seat next to them, and they struck up conversation.
I could swear they walked into. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they came together, and then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
weird.
that's what I picked. I mean, to be fair, I also didn't pick up on the roommate was supposed to be his date. I thought the roommate set up a date between those two, and it was just not going well, and that's what I got from that.
No, she said that the roommate was meant to be his date, and she had to cancel, so she ended up being like shafted into this role.
All right, maybe he sees her as the date then. But honest to God, this was, out of all of the different plots and story beats, this was, I think, the best levity that they had. Like, I enjoyed it when they cut to these people, and I was kind of upset when they resolved the plot of these guys at halftime, because it was halftime. He gets up, the guy who's all pissy gets up and walks out, goes to get them some beers or whatever. They continue talking, and then when we cut back to them, we see that he's taken the middle seat between them, and they're no longer able to talk to each other, and he's like now enjoying the game. But that's it. That's all we get for the rest of it, save for a little bit at the end during the final climactic act. But like, yeah, I really enjoyed whenever it cut to them. They were some of the best writing for me, because it was just so fun to see cutting to this pissy guy and just being like, hey, do you mind? We're kind of a thing here.
Yeah, and then there's a pickpocket going around, a young woman and an old man who are picking pockets. It really does not matter, honestly. It's like the most underdeveloped thing of the whole movie. Then we have Jack Klugman's character, who is a gambler, who it seems like he's doing all right for himself early on. He's in a nice restaurant. He's got a much younger woman sitting with him. He's been all flirty with. And he's making $30,000 bets on the game over the phone. But then someone he owes money to, like, gets him up to his hotel room and threatens him, has his henchman dangle him over a balcony and says, I better have my money tonight. Like, whoever you bet on today at this game better win, because I want my 28 grand at the end of the day, or you're going out that window. Which, okay, so I actually did kind of like this in the end, because effectively where this goes is that the priest that the football player invites to the game, he shows up a little bit late, but he ends up sitting next to Jack Klugman, right? So we have the priest and the gambling addict sitting next to each other, and it basically becomes this thing where if they focused on the game a little bit more, I think this would have been a really funny subplot where Jack Klugman's like terrified because his team Los Angeles are getting their asses kicked for like the first half of the game, and he's turning to the priest like, say a prayer for me, father, say a prayer for me, son of a bitch, Jesus Christ, say a prayer. And then he's like, I'm going to die if they don't win, someone's going to kill me. And then the priest looks all serious, and then later on they're like hugging each other as like the Los Angeles are starting to make a comeback. And I was like, I'm oddly invested in how much of a friendship is forming between this priest and the gambling addict.
Oh yeah, no, this was also a great thing to keep cutting back to, but I agree. I think it needed us to care more about what's happening in the game. I feel like the only reason that they were there is kind of to give you, as the viewer, a idea of what's going on in the game, even if you don't know football. Like, either LA is up and they are all happy, or LA is down and they're all sad.
Yeah, I will say this though, I was so confused every time they cut to a shot of the scoreboard, because they didn't just have two big numbers saying, here's the current score, and they had it like broken down into the quarters, and I'm like, where's the total? Like, I kept trying to look for it, and I kept just not finding it in time before it cut away, so I guess I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll just not worry about it.
I had to rewind and pause to get it, because it's you know, big stuff on the top that says, like, time left on the clock, here's who has the ball, and then all the numbers are down at the bottom, and it's first, second, third, fourth quarter, and then totals is, like, cramped right in between that, and then also turnovers and first down count and stuff like that. So.
I don't think your scoreboard should remind me of a spreadsheet, is all I'm saying.
But Pete, you love spreadsheets. This should be right up your alley.
When I'm looking at spreadsheets, yes, but when I need to glance at something quickly for two numbers, I just want the two numbers.
No. Absolutely. And I feel like most scoreboards have fixed that, where it's like, you want to see the score, bam, there it is. So
anyway, that's like two of our characters. And then, is there anyone else in the crowd worth mentioning?
There is 3 drunk guys sitting behind the older couple who are from Baltimore, and they kind of keep playing into that idea of she flirts with everybody because they keep on like talking to her and she just keeps bouncing back at them. And I only mention that because one of them gives us a false death early on, where one of them has like a heart attack and stumbles down some stairs, and everyone's like, oh god, is he shot? Is he dead? What happened?
I haven't realized that was one of them. I just thought that was someone else randomly in the crowd.
Right.
I didn't even realize that was someone we'd kind of met already. But fair enough. Okay. So there's your rundown of the characters and what they're kind of doing on the sidelines throughout. The turning point in this movie isn't that the shooter actually takes a shot at anyone, right? That's not what happens. And I don't necessarily mind this. I think it should have happened half an hour earlier, because I think it's an interesting little twist to like the way things are going. Because I think I expected, he's going to take off a shot, and maybe he'd put in like a ransom demand and says, hey, if you try and evacuate, I'm going to start spraying around.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be like a standoff kind of hostage style thing almost with 90,000 people. Instead, what happens is that the blimp that's there for the game, it has like an aerial camera in it, right? One of the guys in the control room just happens to notice, wait a minute, is that a guy hiding behind the scoreboard? And basically just sees that he's there with the gun and can tell that he's with a weapon. So he like calls like the security guys and says, hey, do you have someone stationed up there? Is this like a thing you've got? Which is a fair question to ask. Like that's like maybe where your mind would go to try and rationalize it. Oh, this is part of security. Just they have a man up there to keep an eye on things, whatever. And of course they don't. And like, Martin Balsam's character comes in and looks at the footage and is like, let me check with like the rest of the security guys and see if they've put anyone up there. And no. So it's like, okay, I'm going to call Charlton Heston. And the only thing we've had from Heston, other than when he arrived at the station with his really oddly like hip tie that he's got, it's like got the square bottom, is that he just turns on the game. Like that was the only other scene we got of him, is he put his feet up and put the game on.
Yeah, they talk about how the guy wants 20 more cops down at the stadium, and he's just like, no, because I've got the rest of LA to protect. And that's it. That's all you get.
He's regretting that choice at some point, I'm sure.
I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference. It would have been exactly the same situation.
But anyway, he's like, okay, so he gets called in, and he comes down, looks at the footage, and it's like, okay, we've got this situation. And I thought there was like, okay, this is an interesting like direction for this to take in. It's like, because now it's like, okay, we have to try and deal with him without him ever being aware that we know he's there. Because as soon as he knows that we're doing stuff, he might just start acting out because he knows he's been caught and the jig is up and he has to. The best thing we have going for us right now is he doesn't know. And of course, somewhere along the way, a little detail's brought up that the president is supposed to be coming to this game at halftime. So it does become a question of like, is that why he's here? Is he waiting for the president? Is that why he's not done anything yet? And I never really thought that, to be honest, because of the way he was looking at everyone through the scope. But that's kind of something they're considering. Is that what the main purpose of this is? Is it an assassination attempt?
Look, I really like the points of this movie where it is coming down to trying to work out the psychology of this guy. Yeah. So that they can figure out what the best course of action is. Because you work out the thing of like, okay, if we spook him, he has all of this ammo. He might just open fire on a bunch of people. If we wait too long, like maybe he's waiting for a specific person, like the president. Maybe he's waiting to see like how the game goes and he's going to do something at that point. So they're really trying to get through that. And I like them talking about
those
it.
Debates.
All I wish is that talking about it was accompanied with any sort of action. When they do come to a conclusion, I wish that they did something, because really all they end up doing is sitting around until they get to the 2-minute warning. And then they're like, all right, we're in the third act. Let's go.
That's the problem. Other than stationing some people around, like the spot guy eventually puts some people in different high spots strategically. other than that, there's not really much happening again for the next like 45 minutes, which is a problem when I feel like the last 30 or 40 minutes also had nothing happening, which is the problem with this movie, is that ultimately it's just kind of dull relative to like all the potential excitement that could be there. Because yeah, this idea of like we have to try and sneak around and, you know, make it clear that when you're trying to put someone somewhere, there's a chance he might see. So build some tension, like have them try and hide from him. You know, there's we see occasionally that they put on civilian clothes to go into the stadium so that they don't see more police than he's expecting to see. And I'm like, that's a fun idea. You should maybe like emphasize that a bit more and really play this idea of like, let's try and not draw his attention. Like that's like the scary thing here is if he notices us making moves and taking key people away, because at one point Heston says, hey, get me a list of all the people here that could be potential targets, like high priority people. And it's like, oh, the mayor's at the game. You know, this person's at the game. It's like, hey, let's get them out of here. And it's like, hey, what if he notices us removing them from their seats? He might think, oh, they're on to me because he can see that we're evacuating key personnel. And anything like that would have been interesting. And they do evacuate these people, but it's never played in this way where you're like, oh, we have to hope he doesn't see us, and we don't cut to the POV of the killer as he's like, you know, is he noticing it? Is he almost noticing it? Is there any close calls here? There's like so much, like I was thinking, like just from like a filmmaking perspective, there's actually enough here to milk this into a proper nail-biting thriller from almost start to finish as soon as they know he's there. And they just kind of drop the ball by not doing any of it. Like none of it happens.
No, it feels like if they had taken any action, if they had done anything, the movie was worried we weren't going to be able to get to the 2-minute warning. Like if anything were to, if they evacuated someone, if they did whatever, if they made any moves, the movie was like, well, if we do that, then it would make sense to do this. And then it's done at halftime or it's done at whatever point. It feels like they had to specifically keep everything in place until the 2-minute warning because that's the name of the movie.
I still think you could have gone there though with nail-biting tension the entire time.
Do I.
I really don't think that would be a problem. And here's a key point here actually that I want to make is that at one point in this movie, the SWAT guy comes in, Sean Cassavetes' character comes in, and he says to Charlton Heston, "Oh, the president's not coming anymore." And Heston goes, "Wait, I didn't know that. How do you know that?" He's like, "Oh, they made an announcement that he's not coming to the game." And he gets pissed. He's like, "Shit. That wasn't supposed to be made public so that, you know, he wouldn't know that, like, something might have changed, like, because he's got a radio up there." And I'm like, this should be a way, but like, we should have heard him say, keep this quiet, do not have anything in the press that would alert anyone because we think he might hear about it. He has a radio. That should have been a huge plot point, and there should have been consequences to it. We should have seen the killer get angsty and be like, where's this if that's who he's waiting for, and it may not be, but let's say he was waiting for
it. But that's the thing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but
and you're shrouded in mystery, and that's fine, and you think, well, he's probably going to do whatever he's doing at the end of the game, right? Regardless of if he's not done it yet, he's probably waiting until the last few moments. Because one of the theories that Cassavetes has is that maybe he's hoping that he can slip out in the chaos when everyone's running around once he starts doing stuff, which does actually raise a couple of questions actually about the sound of gunshots and how much it would be audible to like at least parts of this crowd, because there's a lot of gunshots that go off before the crowd become aware that stuff's happening in this movie.
Also, I don't know exactly what the crime rate was in LA in the 1970s, but I gotta say, if it was during the 90s, you wouldn't have been able to tell gunshots from inside or outside the stadium. Wouldn't have made any difference.
That's well, not local to you, but like, that's a very much local American joke, which I'm just going to roll with and move on because I don't really know enough about it.
That's fine. I do want to point out one thing you said, though, is the idea of when they say the president isn't coming, you should see him look angsty if that is what he's waiting for. And I think that's the biggest problem I have with the way that they depicted the killer, is that they are so dead set on this being a mystery motive that we have no idea what it is right up until the very end of the movie, that they are unable to forward anything. If they showed him getting angsty at that point, then that tells you it was something about the president and now things have changed. But that would tell you something about his motive. And the fact that every time he looks through the scope, it seems like he's picking some other random one of our main characters to cut between. The movie is so intent on essentially just doing a mystery box, a Abrams styled mystery box of who's it gonna be. We won't find out until the end. That it doesn't actually know what it's doing, and it just wants to be this vagueness that you can attribute to anything.
I'm going to argue with you on this because I actually think the killer being left so mysterious and never getting a clear shot of his face or understanding what his motive is probably the smartest thing they do in this whole movie. I just think it makes it a bit more eerie. I think that's the whole point, is that, you know, anyone could be this. It could be anyone. And I think as much as I'd kind of lost interest by this point, that moment where he's dying at the end and Heston's like saying, hey, before you die, you scumbag, like, tell me who gave you the gun, who put you up to this, what is your purpose? And then he doesn't get an answer. I think it's the most interesting moment of the whole film. Is this idea that they're searching for a reason, something to blame that they can understand? Is this a political assassination? Is it some, I don't know, whatever, a foreign nation? Take your pick. What is it? Are you just a crazy person? The fact that they don't get a real answer, I think, is more interesting to me. And I don't necessarily think that you couldn't have done more interesting things, because you could do the whole thing where, he gets angsty when the president's not there, but it doesn't guarantee that that's what he's angsty about. It's just this idea that he's building up to like whatever he's going to do. Let's just say he's a crazy person who's like really like excited about what he's going to do, or he's really disturbed or whatever it is. He's just getting angsty because he's like, you know, itching to do it, and he's almost done it a few times and he keeps trying to work up the courage or something. Like, you can leave the doors open for why he's acting the way he is. It just needs to feel like there's an escalation. That's what's missing. There's just no escalation until the last, 2 minutes of the game, basically.
Yeah. No, and I in retrospect, I think that's more so of what I was trying to get at is, I think that it is an issue of escalation. I think that it was a problem where because it was just cutting in between all the different people in the audience, and it's just constantly keeping at the same level. It's not feeling like anytime he picks up the gun that this is it. It feels like it's constantly just at this, well, he'll do it eventually, I guess, maybe.
Do you know what a comparison I could make? It's not the exact same thing, but see the opening act of Speed, right? Where crazy man Dennis Hopper's got the people in the lift, right? The elevator, the hostages, explosives, and the SWAT team are sneaking about, trying to find ways to maybe get around it, like find a loophole, find like a way that the killer, the bad guy, won't be able to tell they're coming from, or figure out a solution to the problem. That's effectively what this entire movie should have been. Is assuming you're going with this idea that they know he's there and he doesn't know that they know they're there yet, right? That's what this movie should have been. It should have been them looking for ways to get in, looking for ways to do stuff without him being aware of it. The fact that you've got the camera control room who can see him the whole movie, except for one little period near the end where that camera just cuts out and they're like, shit, we've lost a visual, right? Like, for example, I always talk about how when it comes to action, and when I say action, I don't necessarily mean action in an action movie. I'm not talking about big shootouts or explosions or anything like that. I just mean anything that involves characters doing something in a physical way, where there's movement, where there's anything going on, right? Action. Is that geography is so important with it, right? And they spend a lot of time talking about this area above the billboard, the scoreboard, where he is, right? And we see that, the walls are super high, so it's hard for any other snipers to get a good shot at him, right? Good, makes sense. I felt like we should have understood the ways to get up there so well by the end of this movie. We should have understood the multiple avenues, what was risky about going up one way versus another. And I feel like it's so vague in the way they talk about it. Like, they bring it up, they mention a ladder, they mention this or that, but I'm like, give us a real sense of the location of how to get up there, because it kind of just felt overly simplified to the point where you couldn't really do anything interesting with them trying to rush him at the end. It just kind of they're climbing a ladder, one gets shot in the shoulder, and they kind of throw a smoke bomb in and they jump in and shoot him. That's basically it. There's nothing really interesting about how any of it plays out. And I feel like if this is your big climax, is getting to the bad guy when he started shooting people, then I should have more of a sense of the obstacles in the way to getting to him.
I feel like it can even be expanded from that, where you should have a lot more feel of all the different points of this stadium. Like, when they're setting people around to get these vantage points, you should be like, well, we've got one that would give us a perfectly clear shot if we want to take it. But X, Y, and Z would be a problem. Or here's why we can't use a helicopter and a sniper in the helicopter to take him out because of X, Y, and Z. Like you set up all these things about why we can and cannot do all these certain things because of the geography, because of the location, and what would allow you to get this clear shot. Because I feel like that's kind of the back half of the movie, is this idea of we just need to get a clear shot at him. If we can get that, then we're fine. But they spend so long just dragging their feet to get people into the locations to begin with that honestly, that's not even a big enough focus at the end. The one bit that I did want to bring up, though, is in terms of lost potential, the idea that he does not know that they are sneaking around can then be flipped on its head and immediately adding tension by him finding out is that there is a character, the person who is like the groundskeeper, whatever. He is basically bullied by the cops because they say, well, maybe you forgot to lock the door. Maybe you messed up on this front. And he says, no, I didn't, screw you. And then 5 minutes later, the cops see him climbing up to the location where the sniper is, and the sniper hits him in the head with the gun, and then he falls down seemingly to his death. That should have been the turning point where now we have lost the element of surprise. Like he knows that people know that he's up there, and everything should be so much more ratcheted up to 11 at that point. But it means nothing in the course of the movie.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily means that like the authorities definitely know. I think it could be played off from his perspective as, oh, this is the maintenance guy coming up to check something. He doesn't necessarily know, because this is the thing. Everything's so far back, we just get a wide shot. We don't get to hear like maybe the maintenance guy's yelling something that would give it away. Who knows? But he's like storming up there because he's like, oh, they're saying this is my responsibility, so I'm going to deal with it. And of course, he just gets hit immediately and fall. Not quite to his death. They say he's still alive, but you know he's badly hurt, lying there on the ground. And but you're right though. This should even if he doesn't like realize, oh, the authorities all know I'm up here now. At the very least, the fact that he should feel spooked. He should feel like, oh, someone almost just walked in on me doing this, and like, and now I'm getting angsty and like ready to pop now, kind of thing. Like it really should have felt like it escalated. Again, the problem of escalation. That's what's missing here, is that there's just none of it for large chunks of this. And you know, when we get to things going down, like maybe like something that was almost interesting, but they didn't really do enough with, is that the first person that he shoots, or I should say, the first person that he tries to shoot, right, is Martin Balsam's character, the head of security for the stadium, or I don't know if he works at the stadium. I think he's part of the police, but he's like assigned to this as his detail kind of thing.
He's on stadium duty today. Yeah,
he is in the crosshairs, and it's actually the old boyfriend of the older couple who walks out after they've just made up, right? And they're a happy couple now. He walks out.
He literally just said, "Do you want to marry me?" And she says yes. And it's like, great, let's go watch the rest of the game.
And he gets shot, and that's the first big thing. People see it, blood everywhere. And then the sniper starts like aiming at the snipers, the police snipers in the lighting towers that have been sneaking up there in the back half of the movie. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. He's intentionally, mostly, at least at first, going after the cops. Like he's almost, and you could read this as a couple of different things. Like, is it that he expected them to all be around and that's who he wants to target from the start? Is he frustrated because his plans have fallen through, you know, for whatever he wanted to do in the first place? So he's acting out against them now in like a fit of rage kind of thing. Because then he does start firing into the crowd, and like, you know, some of the characters we know, the gambler gets shot, so he dies. The wife of the family gets hit and doesn't die. She gets hit in the shoulder. But you know, it's like, oh shit, I'm surprised they did that, because you know, because by this point the husband had seen something again, and it kind of makes him worry a little bit. So he goes out to find a police officer to try and report, hey, is there someone up there that's supposed to be there? And they just kind of like stonewall him and are like, why are you asking, sir? What's going on? And when we cut back to him, there's like 6 cops in a circle around him as if he's like the most dangerous person here. And I'm like, look, I get that you want to keep this quiet, but maybe just like quietly pull him to the side and say, look, we're aware of it. We're trying not to cause a panic, and we can't let you go back to your seat now that you know. You're going to have to stay out here with us. And like, I get that he'd still say, hey, no, my family's in there, let me go get my family. At which point I would think that, you know, if not one of the officers, at least maybe Heston, when they go to him, would say, all right, we'll send in an officer to go get them. Like, where are they sitting?
Yeah.
We'll go get them quietly. No harm, no foul. Admittedly, this is so close to when everything starts anyway that it probably would be too late. But obviously,
it's it's them pretty much just walking to Heston when everything starts happening. And then I feel like he's only there for the viewpoint of, let's show somebody running back into the stadium against the horde of crowds that are trying to escape.
Yeah, and there's trampling, of course. People are running over each other and getting hurt. There's people running on the field. There's, all of this has been building up to this 2-minute sequence, basically.
Yeah. All of the field visuals look fantastic.
Oh,
like,
lots of
they
extras.
do a great job. Yeah. They do a great job of giving the sense of urgency with this crowd, with some exceptions. But like when they're showing people on the field, it looks great. The exceptions I want to mention are every once in a while they'll show people at like a staircase or an escalator or whatever, and you can tell these are people who don't actually want to get injured trying to run from this place. So they'll hit the stairs and then it's like, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's like, all right, maybe pick up the pace, like skip a step or something.
There's also some people who are trying to climb down the fixtures on the side of the building to get out quicker, and they're falling into the bushes and stuff like that. So it does feel chaotic. I mean, it's relatively well done. I just think that would it have been interesting for the entire crowd to know they're in danger for a while but not be able to do anything about it? I mean, I don't know if that's realistic. Maybe the crowd would stampede no matter what, but...
Yeah, I feel like the more interesting angle that is cut tragically short is the idea of when the old guy gets shot to begin with, they have to drag him, the girlfriend, and then some random passerby who also got blood on him, just away. They're like, get him to the end of the tunnel. Don't let anyone see. I really would have liked this idea of it's starting. We need to deal with this. SWAT can take care of that. But also anyone else who's hit, we need to try to just contain the panic. Yeah. Like that's something that needs to happen here. And that's the sort of thing where it's immediately gone.
Because all of the officers that he shoots are before the crowd's aware of it, right? They don't start, because there's actually like a dead sniper, like a cop sniper, dangling from a lighting thing just behind the crowd for like a few minutes before they all know and finally notice. And I get that he's behind them, and maybe the other side's just too far away to really make out what that is, but I'm like, no one noticed this guy falling from the lighting tower and looking all dead. Plus
there's a sequence where there's a false start. There's a teenager who's climbed up into a little bit of rafting in order to get a better view. And they're like, this guy might be an accomplice. He's got a duffel bag on him. We got to take him out now. So they show the SWAT team guys and cops come up, and they're just standing next to normal people as they're going to get this guy. And then one of the cops pulls out like an M16 from his bag, ready to go. People see it. They are watching him do this, and nobody freaks out over the course of, oh, this guy just pulled out an M16 on this teenager. And they're just like, oh, okay, never mind, back to the game.
Yeah, they take it kind of in their stride, don't they?
Yeah.
I would say. Also, I have just made a discovery that we have to talk about. There is Hollywood royalty in this movie that we did not notice, right? Because we know him as the director, but Andy Sidaris is in this movie. The director of Hard Ticket to Hawaii is in this thing.
Oh God, he is.
Yes, he is the director in the TV booth. He's the one calling the shots in there. I saw the name and I went, wait, it's not that Andy Sidaris, and I clicked on him and I'm like, nope, director of Hard Ticket to Hawaii, that's him.
Yeah, there he is. Damn. I mean, because he's a director, I never would have recognized him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what he looked like.
That's so. Yeah.
Wild stuff. Wild stuff.
Fair enough.
Find out more about that on Extra Reels, our Patreon and YouTube member exclusive show. Yeah, like, obviously there's some basic fun to be had in the Stampede stuff, but it's honestly, like, just too little too late. Like, they dropped the ball so hard and all the tension building to get to that point that it's hard to give a shit. Like, I think that the opening 20 minutes or so are perfectly fine, but I think that moment where people are aware there's a situation needed to happen sooner, and we had to have more interesting things for them to try and do. You know, maybe stuff they try that fails. Maybe, again, containing information and then things escalate once he's clearly aware of certain things. Maybe things escalate because he catches someone sneaking around, or he catches someone that's clearly a cop that's in civilian clothes doing something, whatever it is. Maybe involving like other characters a little bit, like the father with the binoculars. It almost feels like there's a lot of stuff cut out of the movie that would make a lot of this make more sense. Which I don't know if the alternate cut's going to do that, or if the alternate cut's just wacky in its own ways. But
I mean, if you want me to jump in,
this is the time for it, I think.
I don't know specifically if it helps with any of the problems that we're talking about here, if it's doing any of that. However, the significant plot change is that aspect of you liking the idea that this dude, this sniper, is a faceless, nameless, we don't know why he did it, it's gone. Turns out, in the TV expanded edition, they didn't like the idea of being aired on TV, the fact that this senseless killing could happen. So instead what they did was they said that this sniper thing is all but a ruse, a distraction for an art studio that is being robbed next door. That's
the shittiest thing I've ever heard. What?
Yep. But apparently they go in much more depth as to like the sniper being hired for the job and like all of his friends who are working on the heist itself and all that other stuff.
What's so stupid about that is not only is it giving answers, it's giving really like shit. Like that's it. He was hired by thieves because they were robbing something. That's like the most boring explanation ever.
Yep.
And I wonder if they shot that when they were shooting the rest of the movie, or if like it was shot in 4:3 later.
I don't know if it was shot in 4:3, but it was shot significantly later because apparently Charlton Heston had a wildly different hair color at the time. Oh, so it's very easy to see.
The fact that they got him in some of the new footage, though, isn't it? I thought you were going to say, like these actors never appear in it. It's all like new people. It's all the thieves and them planning stuff. Like
there are several actors who are significantly like only in the TV version, but they did manage to bring back some of the original cast for expanding on plot and such like that. Okay, well, fair play, I guess. Something. One thing you alluded to earlier, but just to sort of wrap it up full circle, once the guy's dying, he has died, the final of the movie is Cassavetes coming over to Heston and saying, oh, there's going to be a lot of talk of him in the next few weeks over the news, who he was, who his like third grade teacher was, what his auntie like taught him when he was 8, and pictures of his dog, all that stuff.
Yeah. And then also a bunch of opinions about how he didn't need to be killed by the police. And it kind of ends on this sort of downbeat note. And I'm like, obviously what we were seeing is like, yeah, he clearly needed to be taken out. He was like so dangerous to everyone around him. But I also feel kind of weird about the end point of the movie basically saying, hey, yeah, the police were right to kill this person. It feels like a weird point to end on for me. I don't know if I'm in love with that.
Yeah. Look, this movie has a very strange relationship with the police where obviously they are the heroes of the story. They are doing the objectively right thing and trying to stop this sniper from doing his stuff. But at the same time, it does play it as kind of the ending of, I'm going to bring up the name. Is it the Malibu one? I don't know. The violence is never the answer, despite the fact that they straight up spent the entire movie doing the violent stuff.
Oh, God, Miami Connection.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I think we were trying to reference like a serious movie there, and then I realized, no, he's referencing something from Extra Reels. Okay, come on a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it's just, we spend the entire movie doing violent things, and then it's like, but were we right? No, you can't do that.
I think what they were going for, and this is the sort of thing where if they'd actually done more of a character drama, like sprinkled throughout here, where Heston and Cassavetes were like, and they kind of like did like one scene where they disagreed about what to do. It's like, Cassavetes like, hey, send them a SWAT team so we can open fire. Like he's the gun, trigger happy. And Heston, ironically, is the one who's like, no, let's not fire the guns. We should, play it safe and be strategic about this. And I think if you actually had two developed characters who were debating this throughout the movie, and then at the end it was kind of like unclear which one of us was right, because ultimately this was, this was going to go badly no matter what, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you could have done something where there is no clear answer here, and it could be poignant. But the movie's not deep enough to have a poignant ending about this. It's just, it's been thrills and not much else, and lots of downtime in between those thrills. So,
well, I mean, that was also, you just mentioned there how they had that little standoff where it's like, look,
Yeah.
we're not giving you SWAT team, we're not giving you the reins on this until the 2-minute warning. Once that happens, like we have to wrap this up before anything else. But until then, let's be strategic about this. Let's figure something out. And then he proceeds to do jack shit for the entire rest of the time.
Yep.
Like, I cannot think of a single action that he took in that period of time to try to stop this sniper. And then the 2-minute warning comes up. He's like, all right, well, I guess it's your guys. I was busy on the John. I don't know what else could have happened.
No, you're right. He had to take actions. He had to actually try and solve things. And maybe eventually it doesn't work, but at least he tried something that was more, so yeah, it feels like it's just not going into the ideas that it presents. It's like it's bringing them up. It's like sort of putting them forth before you, but then it's not actually making a story out of them and doing anything with them. So yeah, pretty mediocre in the end, which is a shame because I think there's potential in the story. Obviously, I don't see them ever remaking this just because of what it is. Like, I think it's just too close to real world things to even attempt to do this exact story. You could do something where there's the threat of it happening and then it's stopped before it does, but I think the way this ends, that final 15 minutes, I don't think you can do in a modern movie now.
No, I guarantee you, if they ever tried to remake this, it would be one of those stories where they would remake it and then 2 weeks later something similar would happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're pulling this out. We're apologetic for all this happening. That's
the problem, isn't it? Is that it happens so often now that you're bound to run into that. So yeah, which is exactly why it wouldn't happen. But David, what are you giving 2-minute warning out of 10?
Oh boy, it ain't good, and good is a 7. So I'm dropping down from there, and I think this one it's not offensively bad by any means. It's not like I left this feeling angry. I just left it feeling so disappointed. So I think I'm going to say this one is a 5. It's just kind of, you said you can have it on in the background, and it's just kind of noise, and I think a 5 is perfectly representative for noise.
I mean, I think somewhere around there sounds about right to me. It's just disappointing. There's potential that it doesn't do anything with, but it's not like, insultingly bad or like tedious to watch, other than just being a little bit boring because it's not doing enough with what it has. I think it has the production value and kind of the locations and all that to at least make it feel like we're in. You feel like you're spending this time at this game for the 2-hour runtime, and that's at least something. But I think the ceiling is a 5 because the script just is not there. So I'll agree with the 5 out of 10. I'll agree with that.
Okay.
So there you go, right down the middle.
Does it make the cut, Peter?
No.
Agree. Cut from the collection.
So that's simple.
Yep.
A middle score is not cutting it close. Cutting it close is kind of decent, but is it quite good enough? That's where cutting it close comes in. This is just out of the collection. So
it's sad, but it's also not like the garbage tiers either. It's no, not quite there.
Oh no, we've done worse, and we'll do worse again. I have no doubt.
Absolutely.
So next week on Collector's Cut, we actually have our final episode of the season, and don't worry if you're thinking there's tons of 70s thrillers that we've not done. This was never just going to be a one season topic. There's going to be more seasons of 70s thrillers. There'll be seasons of 80s thrillers, 90s thrillers, all the thrillers you can handle at some point or other. But to wrap up, we had another vote for our patrons, and the winner of that was a movie called Hardcore, starring, I believe, George Scott, if I remember correctly.
Here, let me just Google that real quick. Hardcore. Oh God. Oh no.
Oh, I wonder what's popped up in David's not safe search engine.
Oh my God. This has always been on the internet?
Yeah, now type rat tail with it and see what you get. Anyway, that's what's coming up next week on the show. That'll wrap up the season, and we can't quite tell you what the next season is going to be just yet because it is a Patreon vote, but there's 3 directors up for grabs, so we'll be doing a season on a director on their early films specifically. And there's 3 directors up right now. They are Brian De Palma, Sidney Lumet, and Martin Scorsese. So one of those will be the next season, depending on how our patrons and the voting tier and upvote. So which is a good segue into Patreon and YouTube membership and the ways you can support us outside of liking, subscribing, all the free stuff, which is great. Love when you do that. But if you want to do it financially, you can do it via Patreon, and you get access to bonus segments called Ratings Rundown, where we do like ratings on the visuals, the cinematography, sound, acting, all that kind of stuff. But we also do a monthly exclusive show called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst things ever made, including Hard Ticket to Hawaii, the director of which was in 2 Minute Warning, as we pointed out earlier on. So
crazy.
That was a weird unknown connection we didn't know about. But you can get access to that. This month we did some crazy movie called Love on a Leash, which is on YouTube to watch if you really want to, and then hear us talk about it. But that exists, so
it's worth checking out. I'll say that much.
It was funny. I was just editing the Extra Reels episode actually at the time of recording, and I almost wanted to just have the dog's voiceover playing throughout the entire intro, and not just a little bit at the end like I sometimes do. I didn't. I decided it didn't sound very good, so I just had one bit at the end, but I wanted to. So
nah, that tells you quite a bit.
I was laughing a lot as I was editing, so I'll say that much.
Good.
But that is Extra Reels, which you can get via Patreon or YouTube membership. But that is the show. That is everything. Also check out our sci-fi movie podcast, The Atomic Cinema Experiment, which just this week, or later earlier this week, was Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and that was a big discussion because it's a Star Wars movie, obviously. But there's a whole variety of things coming up on that as well. But that is the show. That has been the Collector's Cut. So thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.